ASEAN is made up of 10 diverse markets, uniquely positioned at the heart of global trade routes. Home to a rapidly rising and affluent middle class, with one of the fastest growing digital landscapes, manufacturing hubs and abundant natural resources. ASEAN's strong fundamentals are driving its growth and resilience. With our knowledge and insights on local markets, Standard Chartered can help you accelerate your growth and navigate the complexities of each market. As you expand across ASEAN, we can support you with end-to-end solutions, streamlining processes across multiple jurisdictions, making it more efficient for you. We are leading on the ASEAN regional connectivity to integrate trade and payments in the region. To support the growing cashless ecosystem, we've digitized our cash management. From virtual accounts to a wide range of APIs, we've optimized digitization for your transaction and reporting needs. We are investing in fintech solutions and building new business models, creating efficiencies and better experiences for your customers. When it comes to working across ASEAN's supply chains to finance your imports, exports or inventory, and raising capital for your business, our award-winning capital market solutions are customized to your needs. As you expand outside your home market, our dynamic hedging offering helps your treasury team manage volatility, ensure price consistency, and deliver competitive margins. We're committed to promoting economic and social development in our markets. Our value and philosophy are embedded across our banking products and practices. With $75 billion committed towards sustainable development goals, we can help your business make a positive impact. ASEAN's future is bright. As your trusted banking partner, we are committed to supporting your growth ambitions, co-creating innovative and winning solutions with you. We are Standard Chartered. We are here for good.
Hi everyone, I'm Melanie Kong, Standard Chartered. Welcome everyone and thank you for joining Standard Chartered's ASEAN Business Forum Country Webinar Vietnam, the Rising Star today. Before we begin, I have a few housekeeping notes to run through together with you. If you're logged on to this webcast with your laptop, you will know the slide bar that allows you to adjust the screen size of the presenter and the presentation shown on your screen. On the right side, you will see a menu of icons and interactive features. Please note that your mic and video will automatically be disabled for this webcast. If you're on your mobile device, the icons will be on the top right-hand side. You will note that there's an icon that allows you to communicate with our event moderator for any technical assistance. The next icon shows Q&A is where you can type in your questions for our panel of speakers today. So without further ado, I'd like to kick things off by welcoming our Chief Executive Officer, Standard Chartered Vietnam, and ASEAN and South Asia Cluster Markets, Nirut Sapro, to deliver the welcome remark. Nirut, please.
Your Excellency, Mr. Nguyen Chi Dung, Minister of Planning and Investment, Your Excellency, Mr. Lê Minh Hung, Governor of the State Bank of Vietnam, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of all of us in Standard Chartered, a very warm welcome to the Standard Chartered ASEAN Series Vietnam session. In late August, we hosted the virtual Standard Chartered ASEAN Business Forum 2020, during which the panelists from both the public and private sectors discussed the emerging trends that will shape the region's future. We were privileged to have His Excellency Prime Minister of Vietnam, Mr. Nguyen Xuan Phuc, grace the forum with a welcome address. Following the success of the forum, we are pleased to host today's deep dive session on Vietnam, where we will be discussing the strategies to capitalize on the investment opportunities in Vietnam post-COVID-19. The pandemic has significantly impacted economic activities globally. Vietnam is no exception. However, given its strong fundamentals of a young, dynamic, and tech-savvy population, a growing domestic market, a rising middle class, and an open economy, Vietnam continues to offer exciting investment opportunities. Many startups and multinational corporations have set up their operations in Vietnam to leverage its strategic connectivity and proximity to ASEAN economies as a gateway to grow their businesses. A survey conducted during the Standard Chartered ASEAN Business Forum 2020 showed that 38% of respondents would consider Vietnam for their supply chain diversification. This is the highest ratio among ASEAN countries. There is little doubt that Vietnam has been getting a lot of investor attention, evidenced by the strong FDI inflow into the country in recent years. While COVID-19 is likely here to stay for a while, it should not prevent us from exploring the new opportunities that Vietnam can offer and attempt new strategies to build and sustain growth in the country. This will be the focus of the discussion we are going to have today. We are extremely privileged to have His Excellency Minister of Planning and Investment, Mr. Nguyen Chi Dung, and His Excellency the Governor of the State Bank of Vietnam, Mr. Lê Minh Hung, address the session and join us in the panel discussion. Thank you, Minister Dung and Governor Hung, for your time with us today. We also have two other panelists who are Mr. Soren Bac, the General Manager of RB Health Vietnam, and Mr. C.K. Tong, CEO of BW Industrial Development. My colleague Nguyen Xuan Thanh, Independent Non-Executive Director of Standard Chartered Vietnam, and I will be the moderator of the discussion. I hope you will enjoy the session and find interesting insights. Before I close, I would like to reaffirm that Standard Chartered remains fully committed to Vietnam and to supporting businesses and individuals to achieve success in Vietnam. We will continue to leverage our unrivaled knowledge about Vietnam from our over 115 years operating here and our international network and expertise to help you navigate your business in Vietnam, as well as support your growth ambitions. The event today is a demonstration of that. So to kickstart the session, may I invite Your Excellency, Minister Nguyen Chi Dung, to have an opening remark. Thank you.
Your Excellency, Governor of the Vietnam, of the SBV, Mr. Niruk Sapru, the CEO of Standard Chartered Bank for Southeast Asia, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I'd like to welcome you all to the webinar titled Vietnam Rising Stars today. And I appreciate Standard Chartered Bank's initiative to coordinate with the Ministry of Planning and Investment and the State Bank of Vietnam in hosting this very meaningful webinar following the ASEAN Business Forum. And this is a great opportunity for us to share views about new investment trends and discussing solutions to improve Vietnam's investment environment, as well as offering suggestions to improve effectiveness, efficiency towards success in investment and doing business in Vietnam. Ladies and gentlemen, for many years, in order to optimize investment effectiveness and efficiency, many multinational corporations around the world have restructured their investment processes and repositioned their supply chains. And recently, when the world economic and political context has become complicated, the trade conflicts between major economies remains tense, and especially the negative impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic have disrupted supply chains, and multinational corporations have accelerated the process of restructuring and investment diversification in order to avoid dependence on a single country or a single partner. And with our existing competitive advantages, together with strong reform of the investment climate and improving international position, positive and effective COVID-19 responses, Vietnam is being appreciated by the international community as an attractive and safe investment destination for foreign investors. And while the global FDI likely to decline as much as 40% in 2020, Vietnam's FDI attraction results in the first 8 months of the year are still relatively positive, with a total registered capital of nearly $20 billion, especially an increase of 6.6% of new registered capital and 22.2% increase in expanded and additional capital. And these figures are very encouraging, and they demonstrate the efforts and determination of the government and authorities in attracting foreign investment, especially ones with high quality and the ones that are aligned with our policy directions. And we give a high priority to attracting projects using high and advanced technologies, new technologies, modern governance with high added value, with strong spillover effects and technology transfer, which commit to support Vietnamese businesses to participate in the supply chain and linked with human resource development in Vietnam. Ladies and gentlemen, in recent years, in order to receive high-quality foreign investment capital flows, as well as attracting investment in large corporations around the world, Vietnam has been proactively preparing necessary conditions for investment activities, including preparation of land and infrastructure, clean land, accelerating the process of training human resources, and continue to improve the business environment and enhancing our national competitiveness. We have also established a working group to promote foreign investment cooperation and to timely address the concerns and questions of the foreign investors coming to Vietnam. And in the last National Assembly session, a series of legislations related to investment and business, such as the amended investment law, the amended enterprise law, the PPP law, have been approved, with many changes and developments towards simplifying investment procedures, enhancing decentralization and transparency, diversifying investment forms, and adding special investment incentives for projects. And large-scale projects that meet the criteria and make a significant contributions to socio-economic development of Vietnam are welcome. And in addition, the Vietnam-EU Free Trade Agreement and the Vietnam-EU Investment Protection Agreement were also approved by the National Assembly, opening a new and broad and comprehensive cooperation direction and stronger development between Vietnam and the EU. These two agreements, together with the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, CPTPP, and other free trade agreements, are seen as modern highways, bringing Vietnam closer to the world's economies and helping us to grasp and exploit the advantages offered to Vietnam when we have free trade relations with 55 countries, including 15 of the G20 group. And according to a recent World Bank study, the simultaneous implementation of both EVFTA and CPTPP will help Vietnam's GDP increase by up to 3.2% in the next decade. And with a worldwide network of connections of Standard Chartered, we at the Ministry of Planning and Investment hope that Standard Chartered can assist in strengthening the connections of investors and attracting multinational corporations around the world to invest in Vietnam, and in particular, together with working together with us in developing important facilities to drive the socio-economic development, such as National Center for Innovation and International Financial Center. Ladies and gentlemen, we understand that opportunities do exist, but there are also challenges And in order to overcome the current challenges and difficulties with the desire to build a rich and strong country, Vietnam needs to have higher determination and open mindset. And we need to act strongly and drastically to grasp these opportunities. And at the webinar today, we are looking forward to hearing your constructive opinions and contributions, and also share with you our concerns and our thinking in the issues of doing business and investing in Vietnam. And with that, I would like to announce the opening of the webinar this afternoon. And I wish you all health and success to the webinar. Thank you very much.
Your Excellency, Minister Nguyen Chi Dung, thank you very much for those insightful remarks. They were really insightful, Minister. Thank you very much. And now I am really pleased to welcome His Excellency Governor Lay Min Hung to deliver a speech. Governor Hung, please.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to take part in today's virtual discussion on the subject of attracting foreign investment in the post-pandemic period. I believe is topically relevant in the context where COVID-19 has brought about unprecedented impacts on every socio-economic aspect of every nation. So thank you very much for your participation in this very important event. I would like to acknowledge the significant role in and contribution of foreign investment to Vietnam's socio-economic achievements. I also believe that foreign investors have more or less harvested what they expected from investment in Vietnam. Over the past 20 years, Vietnam has always been seen by foreign investors as an attractive destination for various factors, among which political, socio-economic stability and facilitating policies play a significant role. The government of Vietnam is persistent in safeguarding these elements, but the challenges posed by COVID-19 require us to be more flexible in responding with specific and timely solutions to mitigate negative impacts and, where possible, to turn challenges into opportunities. For the State Bank of Vietnam, the central bank of the country, since the beginning of the year, we have taken appropriate and timely steps in responding to the negative impacts of the pandemic. The policy rate have been cut twice to support credit growth. Deposit and lending rates to prioritize sectors have been reduced, creating favorable conditions for both credit institutions and borrowers to access lower cost funding. In parallel with easing policy actions, the State Bank of Vietnam keeps close watch on market development and regulate exchange rates in a proactive and flexible manner in line with market demand and supply. Policy communication have been duly conducted to ensure public confidence, and relevant regulations have been modified to allow for loan rescheduling and reduction and exemption of interest and payment service fees for customers. So at the same time, continued efforts have been put in reforming the banking sector and strengthening the banking supervision to safeguard the sound and safe development of the whole banking system. So the determined policy actions by the central bank have contributed to the important achievements of our government and the central bank so far. Inflation now is under control. Liquidity of the system is ensured. Money market is stable. Interbank interest rates stay low. Lending rate reduced considerably. Exchange rates and foreign exchange market move in a very stable manner. And foreign exchange reserves continue to be built up to a record high level. This in turn have contributed to maintaining an enabling environment for all the economic sectors to overcome difficulties and for the country to retain its sovereign credit ratings, as well as the confidence of investors, allowing for the mobilizations of investment for economic recovery. Ladies and gentlemen, COVID-19 pandemic has caused economic and trade stagnant globally. Foreign investment, characterized by the cross-border flows of capital and resources, is among the hardest hit sectors. requiring investors to diversify their supply chains and reduce the excessive dependence on a small number of markets. So it has become a challenge to governments to keep investors stay, but also an opportunity for them to enhance the approach to promoting and attracting investments. In this regard, the most important task for a central bank like the State Bank of Vietnam are to ensure macroeconomic, monetary, and exchange rate stability, and to provide for the sustainable development of a highly resilient banking sector that meets the capital demand of the economy in a timely manner. To do so, the State Bank of Vietnam will continue to pay attention to forecasting, building and updating the different scenarios, and take appropriate policy actions to, in the one hand, support growth, and in the other hand, safeguard macroeconomic stability, and to ensure an efficient and enabling investment environment for investors in general and foreign investors in particular. So I would like to stop here and look forward to the panel discussion session that follows. Once again, I thank you very much and wish you all good health and success. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Excellency Governor Lay Meng Hung, for sharing those excellent remarks. Now it's time for the panel discussion. I would like to also introduce Mr. Nguyen Xuan Thanh, Independent Non-Executive Director of Standard Chartered, who will moderate the session and the discussion together with me. I'd again like to welcome our panelists today, the Minister of Planning and Investment, Mr. Nguyen Chi Dung, the Governor of the State Bank of Vietnam, Mr. Lay Meng Hung, Mr. Soren Beck, General Manager of RB Health Vietnam, Mr. C.K. Tong, CEO of BW Industrial Development. As mentioned earlier, if you'd like to pose a question to any of them, please send your questions by clicking the Q&A icon on your screen. To start the discussion, I would like to have the first question for His Excellency Minister Nguyen Chi Dung, if I may. Minister, investors are now paying great attention to Vietnam's 10-year socio-economic development strategy, the 2021 to 2030 strategy. Could you please share what economic strategies will help Vietnam continue to maintain its growth rate? What role will FDI play in its new development strategies? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your question, and I'd like to thank you for your interest in the socio-economic development directions and policies for Vietnam for the next 10 years. We are now in the process of developing and finalizing this strategic document, and this is a very important moment for Vietnam, as we have almost completed the last 10-year strategy and the 5-year socio-economic development plan between 2016 and 2020 to assess what we have done and what needs to be done in the coming time. This is a very important time for us because it's very important that we need to accelerate our growth and development and exploiting our advantages and opportunities offered to us. That's why we have identified a number of ambitious and strong goals and objectives for Vietnam in 10 years to come. And first of all, our overall goal is that by 2025, Vietnam will become still a developing country, but with modernized industry, and we will reach above the low middle income country. So we will surpass that and become a higher middle income country. And by 2030, we will become a developing country with modernized industry and with high medium income. And by 2025, when we celebrate the 100th anniversary of the country's establishment, we will become a developed country with high income. So these are the goals that we are setting for decades to come, based on our analysis of the opportunities offered to us and the potentials that we believe we are able to untap. And our viewpoints of economic development are based on the following principle. We will need to be proactive and develop fast based on science and technology, innovation and digital transformation. We will have to take a forward-looking approach with a stronger integration, market diversification, and improving the resilience and adaptation ability of the economy. The market will play a key role in mobilizing, allocating, and using effectively our resources, and laws and legal system need to promote innovation, digital transformation, and developing products and services and new business models. We will also take full advantage of developing the human resources opportunities, seeing people as the center and actor and the key driving force of development. And the next principle is to link closely between economic, cultural, and social development together with national security, sovereignty, environmental protection, and social stability. With regard to some specific objectives, we are also setting out the targets of an average GDP growth rate during this period for about 7%, with the share of manufacturing accounting for 30% of GDP and digital economy accounting for about 30% of GDP. So these are the clear targets being set by the government. And for the role of FDI businesses in the upcoming strategy, in the new socio-economic development strategy, FDI continues to be regarded as a very important source of investment, being encouraged and promoted for long-term development, cooperation, and healthy and fair competition with other economic sectors. And the government continues to respect and protect the interests and benefits of investors, ensuring harmonized benefits between the state, the investors, and the employees. Foreign investment will contribute actively to economic development of the country, and Vietnam will also take a proactive stance in attracting and cooperating with the foreign investors in a selective manner, with priorities given to advanced and high technologies, clean technologies, with high added value, with spillover effects, with the ability to link closely with the supply chains and the global value chains, and closely linked with human resource development. So FDI continues to be a very important and key role in our economic development. But of course, we have set out the criteria for selecting foreign investors, and those foreign investors who meet our criteria for incentives can enjoy better and higher incentives currently being offered across the board to all investors in Vietnam. So thank you very much for your listening to my response.
Thank you very much, Minister Nguyễn Chí Dũng, for sharing with us a very brief but insightful summary of the 10-year economic development strategy. And we also understand from your remark that a key element of that strategy is a market-based mobilization and allocation of resources. And so may I now turn to His Excellency Lê Minh Hưng, Governor of the State Bank of Vietnam. We know that the State Bank of Vietnam has been making a lot of efforts to restructure the credit institutions in Vietnam in the last 5 years, from 2016 to 2020. Can you share with us the results so far of that effort? And also, we understand that a significant milestone has been achieved very recently, that many commercial banks in Vietnam, not only large but also medium-sized banks have met the requirements and have started implementing the Basel II standard, but also from your remarks that the challenges of the current COVID-19 pandemic means that we have to continue the efforts of restructuring, making sure that the banking system will be in a good position to support the economic recovery post COVID-19. So can you also please share with the webinar the orientation and the direction of the development of credit institution system in Vietnam in the coming years?
Mr. Thành, thank you very much for your question. Regarding the credit institution restructuring plan, you know that SBV plan for restructuring of the whole banking system in association with bad debts resolution for the period of 2016-2020 focus mainly on the restructuring of the whole banking sector and also handling non-performing loans and weak banks with the principles following market mechanism, ensuring depositors' interest and maintaining the stability and the safety of the banking system. So by now, the plan has proved to bring about important outcomes in all aspects, according to our recent assessment. The legal framework for the banking activities have been improved so far, in line with international standard and also Vietnamese banking system conditions. Certain articles of the law on credit institutions was revised and supplemented, and a series of State Bank of Vietnam circulars have been issued with regards to banking supervision, governance, and prudential ratio. The number of credit institutions have been reduced, while their shares in terms of both total assets and equity have been enhanced. The governance capacity also enhanced in line with international practice, and the transparency of credit activities is also improved. So most banks have up to now applied the capital adequacy ratio using standardized approach under Basel II. Many banks have been completed adopting Basel II before the deadlines set by the central bank. The State Bank of Vietnam also built legal basis for the implementation of the second pillar of Basel II. Regarding the NPL resolution, with the comprehensive implementation of measures to recover the NPL required by the State Bank of Vietnam, the credit quality has been significantly improved, contributing to reducing NPL ratio at below now 2%. So in the context of the outbreak of COVID-19 has created unprecedented challenges and negative impacts on Vietnam's economic development. The State Bank of Vietnam has taken active measures to support the economy, as well as to continue our efforts in the restructuring of credit institutions for the period of 2016-2020. The State Bank of Vietnam focused its efforts in mitigating negative impacts on the pandemic on the economy. At the same time, continuing the process of improving the quality of the whole banking system. We are now developing a new plan for restructuring of the whole banking system for the period 5 years 2021 to 2025, which is expected to be submitted to the Prime Minister for approval in the coming time. So for the period of 2021-2025 period, the State Bank of Vietnam will continue to prioritize the improvement of monetary and banking legal framework, specifically amending and supplementing the law on credit institutions, the law on deposit insurance, and also adding some new regulations which allow for diversified financial services, enhance effectiveness and efficiency of banking supervisory activities, and also supervision approach. We move actively from compliance-based to risk-based in accordance with international practice and standards. So the State Bank of Vietnam will persist on safeguarding a stable macroeconomic environment, facilitating the banking sector to support economic recovery without deviating from the road towards higher quality and safety in both operational and financial aspects. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, the Governor. Thank you very much for that. I mean, clearly, as a bank operating in Vietnam, we see significant progress in almost all directions, including governance, including safety of the banking sector. So thank you very much for your comments. My next question is for Mr. Soren Beck. Mr. Beck, as Minister Dung has made clear about Vietnam's economic development strategy in the next 10 years, productivity growth and upgrading labor skills will remain key. How can Vietnam, how can the quality of Vietnam's human resources be improved for the country to move up the value-added ladder and transition toward an innovation-led growth model? Sorry.
Thanks a lot for this question. I had the pleasure of living in ASEAN for the last 20 years and worked in both Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, and Malaysia. And when you look at it, it's very clear there's one word that comes across, and that's education. The countries which are taking lead on driving education and building the workforce, in particular engineers, managers, and technologies, to be able to transfer other manufacturing from China or manufacturing from Europe, you need to develop the local workforce with the right skill set. So Vietnam needs to do maybe similar to Malaysia in the 90s, did look east during Mahathir's time. And in Thailand, you'll see that in Rayong area, there was a clear focus on chemical and manufacturing of cars as key driver of building the labor force. So my view is coming to Vietnam as an expat, working here, living here, transferring knowledge. The most important is that we build the local workforce skill set wise by investing further in the government institution in terms of education. And we need to globalize these educational institutions better. We run young management trainees in the companies, millennials with all the positive and the negatives of the new workforce, but we need to give them opportunities for education and build their skill set. So my advice would be, we must drive better education, globalize the education in Vietnam, and connect the institutions in Vietnam globally to the US, to Europe, as well as China, just like you do in terms of trading arrangement. You need to do the same in terms of education. Education is the fundamental for Vietnam to be able to do Industry 4.0, which will be a digital industry. So in basic terms, invest further in education.
Thank you, Soren, for your insights and recommendations on the development of human resources for Vietnam. And that's also part of the new economic development strategy. And we also see that the government is trying in parallel to the focus on education is the development of infrastructure. And that in recent years has become a major bottleneck in Vietnam. And with that, I would like to turn to our next panelist, CK Tung. CK, so how do you rate the quality of infrastructure and also logistics and port facilities in Vietnam compared to other ASEAN countries? And how can they be further improved, especially to attract new flows of FDI to Vietnam in the coming years?
Thank you. I think this is a really very challenging question here, but I think it's fortunate that I actually have been exposed to the other ASEAN countries as well as China in the past 15 years or so, where I actually saw similar patterns developing here in Vietnam. while I see in some countries the the pace of growth did not go as fast as say what Vietnam is experiencing right now. Specifically on infrastructure, I think Vietnam also present a very interesting pictures. We can see the ability of what the Vietnamese government has been able to do is to create a wonderful infrastructures of roads and freeways connecting all the important industrial cluster in the north to all the key gateways, including airports and deport. We see individual provinces devoting resources in widening their roads, improving the landscaping, and bringing policies to help their particular provinces. But at the same time, we also see that there are room of improvement in the south, of which certain important industrial clusters and provinces in the south can be even better connected to actually speed up the economic development between the few key provinces like Bình Dương, Ho Chi Minh City, Dong Nai, and Long An. So I think that Vietnam has demonstrated to the world that what it can do and what it can achieve. I think it's just a matter of time before we see a full-scale development of the infrastructure that will coincide with the influx of the foreign direct investment that are rapidly coming in and setting up their manufacturing base in Vietnam. I have a strong belief that it is an inevitable reality for Vietnam to be developed into one of the most advanced economy in Southeast Asia, far outpacing some of the early players such as Thailand, Philippines, and Indonesia in the years to come.
Thank you, Mr. Tong. I mean, clearly, as a person living in Vietnam for the last 7 years, I've personally seen the remarkable improvement in the infrastructure, and I, like you, share the view that very exciting opportunities in the future in terms of the development of the infrastructure space. So it's really exciting to see. Minister Zung, Your Excellency, if I could direct the next question to you. In addition to the new FDI projects, we are seeing quite a lot of interest from foreign companies in M&A, and there's been a lot of M&A bringing in foreign direct investment into Vietnam. It'd be interesting to get your views and if you could share the important policy changes or upcoming policies that you are going to create a more open and favorable environment for M&A activities in Vietnam, especially for foreign investors. Mr. Zung.
Well, thank you very much for your question. Before answering specifically to this question, I would like to thank the panelists, Mr. Sorenberg, Mr. C.K. Tong, for talking about two important issues for Vietnam, education and human resource development and infrastructure. The government of Vietnam have also recognized that there are three major bottlenecks, which are institutional issues, infrastructure, and human resources. And we have also identified three strategic breakthroughs in order to address these challenges. And the plan is now being actively implemented, and we can confirm that in the next 10 years, we'll take stronger efforts in order to achieve these major objectives, especially institutional development and infrastructure development, in order to reduce cost and improve the competitiveness of the economy. Human resources need to be developed in order to take advantage of the demographic bonus of Vietnam. We still have a strong and vibrant workforce, and we need to grasp this opportunity before we start aging in 2030. So this is a major challenge that we will need to work on together with our economic restructuring and restructuring all economic sectors in Vietnam and renewing our growth model towards higher productivity, improved quality, effectiveness, and competitiveness. So those are some of my additional points to the two questions addressed by you two. With regard to M&A question, in recent years, M&A activities have become more popular in Vietnam. And this has also suggested to us that even though we are under the impact of COVID-19 in the first months of 2020, but there are thousands of contributions of capital by foreign investors in buying, contributing capital to Vietnam's businesses at around $5 billion, suggesting that Vietnam is still a very attractive destination for foreign investors. For the current legal framework for M&A, we can confirm that the legal framework has been streamlined and transparency has been improved in order to offer the most enabling environment for investors. And the investors are now don't have to obtain the investment license certificate, and they have much more streamlined procedures in order to pay capital to invest in Vietnamese businesses. And the investment law in 2020 has also added important regulations in order to further simplify procedures and reducing the procedures for foreign investors in conducting M&A activities in Vietnam. They no longer have to obtain the ministries if they just contribute capital or increase capital, but not increasing the ownership ratio. So the procedure has become very simple now at the business registration offices. So we can see that M&A regulations in Vietnam have been much more streamlined than those in the past. We have also added more enabling regulations as well. But we stay open and ready to listen to suggestions and recommendations of the business community in order to further improve our policies and legal framework on M&As. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister Nguyễn Chí Dũng. Thank you for your comments. In addition to the other two panelists' answers on human resources and infrastructure development challenges, you also mentioned the focus of the government for institutional reform. And from that, you talked about the need to improve the regulatory framework for businesses, both FDI and local businesses, and also especially for M&A activities. And with regard to the need to improve regulatory framework, that is also a significant challenge in the financial and banking system in Vietnam. And with that, I now turn to His Excellency Governor Lê Minh Hưng. So we all know that digital banking and fintechs are experiencing very rapid developments in Vietnam. We have many fintech startups in the country, and as well as many new institutions, as well as existing banks are moving toward digital banking. However, the concern of many investors and businesses is there's still a lack of a regulatory framework governing digital banking and fintech activities. So the question for you is, what can businesses and investors expect from the efforts of the State Bank in Vietnam for further development in the regulatory frameworks governing digital banking and fintech activities?
It is a very interesting question, but rather difficult to answer. You know that the emergence and rapid development of the fintech has brought about various challenges to regulators relating to risk concerning anti-money laundering and terrorism financing, information security, or confidentiality, etc. So the current task set out for financial management agencies around the world is to support the innovation in the banking and financial sector, and also to maintain the stability and safety of the financial markets, and also at the same time to support economic growth. So just like as regulators, central bank, the State Bank of Vietnam and relevant agency in Vietnam also facing new challenges regarding the management with the wake of fintech companies operating in various areas, including peer-to-peer lending, new payment models, cross-border remittance, user information sharing via open APIs, etc. Currently, as most of these operations have not been properly regulated by an appropriate legal framework, the risk once arising will not be fully managed. From what we see in the actual fintech ecosystem development in Vietnam so far, as well as in fintech management practices in the world, in the coming time, it is important and urgent to establish a regulatory sandbox applied to these totally new and unregulated services. Currently, the State Bank of Vietnam is taking lead in working with relevant ministry and government agencies to prepare for submission to the Prime Minister a proposal of issuing a government decree on fintech regulatory sandbox in the banking sector. For the services that have been partially regulated, State Bank of Vietnam has now reviewing and revising regulations to support credit institutions' application of new technology in such operation as payment services, like we are now trying to amend and supplement the government decree on non-cash payment, and also KYC for customer authentication. We are now amending and supplementing government decree guiding certain articles of the law on anti-money laundering. We are now, State Bank of Vietnam, also working on proposing additional contents related to technology to the law on credit institution in order to create adequate legal framework for digital transformation and fintech in the banking sector. So thank you.
Thank you, Governor. Clearly, as we see the balance between getting the safety and security and allowing innovation is a tough balance, not just for Vietnam, but I think around the world. And we really compliment the State Bank in taking a proactive yet very focused approach on safety and security. So thank you for that answer. I guess as a market participant involved in the banking sector and seeing the rise of technology and fintech, we really appreciate the work that the State Bank is doing in pulling it all together. Perhaps I can take a question for Mr. Soren Beck. Soren, there's little doubt that economic growth in Vietnam, like elsewhere in the world, is experiencing some slowdown. Other markets have more significant slowdown than Vietnam because of COVID-19. Both external and domestic demand have weakened. The suspension of air travel is also causing some disruption to businesses. How do you see businesses in Vietnam coping with the impact of the pandemic?
Thanks for the question. I mean, first and foremost, I want to say we should thank the Vietnamese government for we had good control from early on. So we had a positive growth in the first quarter, despite the pandemic. So I think a big applause. But if you look at it from an industry point of view, in FMCG, which I'm working in, basically you see the consumers has been demanding a lot more for health and hygiene products. They're willing to buy a higher quality, higher price products where they're making sure that they get the right hygiene in their household, and basically they protect their family better. So from that point of view, there's been a very positive uptrend on the FMCG side of demanding products for health and hygiene. Now, if you compare to another industry, which is the service industry, of course, there's been a major impact, whether it's airlines or restaurants or hotel. So from that point of view, there's probably a need from the government to support these industries to rejuvenate the tourist industry whenever there's a way we can control the pandemic. Now, the positive is on the consumer. The consumer in Vietnam has been very good in adapting into the mobile world and have embraced e-commerce and new channels for basically doing shopping and therefore control the number of social interactions. And we have seen for diapers, we have seen for infant formulas, significant growth in e-commerce as the way the future mom will do shopping. Basically, she can order online, she can get delivery at home and minimize risk for transfer of any COVID as an example. So basically, FMCG industry have had positive impacts. Some areas in FMCG have negative, but basically those who had positive, it's also been an uptrade on better quality to protect their family. And last but not very importantly, the consumer in Vietnam has been quite resilient, adapting to mobile solution and done that well in terms of picking up e-commerce and new channels. So I think this has been positive for Vietnam in that way, that it drives the new channels on e-commerce and new ways of shopping. Thank you.
All right, Mr. C.K. Tong. In a lot of executive opinion survey, Vietnam has often come on top as the most attractive destination for the China Plus One strategy and also diversification of the supply chains. But of course, Vietnam is also facing tough competition from other destinations like India, Indonesia, and Malaysia. So how do you see the shifts in supply chains toward Vietnam in a post-COVID-19 pandemic world?
Thank you for the questions. I think the China Plus One strategy has been in place even the pre-COVID-19 saga. So it is something that has been in the mind of many of the manufacturers for quite some time now, which I think it's a natural evolution of a lot of the industrialization and modernization of the industry in China. I think China has gotten to a point where, a couple of reasons for them or for companies in China started to have to start looking out. One, first for the market, obviously. Secondly, for a lower cost of operations. And thirdly, of course, entry to a gateway that can further expand the marketability of the product. So Vietnam, in this case, COVID or not, is best placed, in my opinion, simply for two very, very key reasons. Geographically, it is extremely close to China, which is critical because a lot of the products or materials or components have already achieved a pretty good economy of scale in China. And these forms a critical part of a components that goes into, say, the final assembly. Another key reason it's obviously the similarities in terms of cultures, work ethics, entrepreneurships of the two countries. It makes it extremely easy for a company operating in China to move to Vietnam and find a similar level of enthusiasm, productivity, enterprising spirit, presenting themselves the kind of successful components that is needed for efficient operations. And I think we can all see with, with delight that, Samsung is producing perhaps, majority part of its cell phone and also one of the latest versions of the cell phone are all now made in Vietnam. So this proof that, the Vietnamese workforce can actually produce the highest level of, modern gadget today. So that's not a question anymore. The only thing is that, given the complexity of products this day, so many different parts are required to put into a final products that we use, and some of it already have the economy of scale, as I mentioned. That we continue to have to be operating in a global environment whereby a single product would not be making in just one location. So this present obviously a great opportunities for Vietnam-based enterprises, whether it's foreign or whether it is local, to take this opportunity to embrace the influx of this migrations from China and create a strong ecosystem to support this migration. There is, again, no doubt in my mind that Vietnam is best positioned to capitalize this, given the size of the workforce, the youth of the workforce, the work ethics, the eagerness to learn, and obviously the strong support by the government policies, opening up markets all over the world, presenting Vietnam as a place to produce and export. So all these elements put together, I definitely see Vietnam as a very, very formidable players in the global supply chain in years to come.
Thank you, CK. Thank you, Mr. Tung. It's quite interesting from our perspective. We see such a lot of inquiry these days in terms of people looking to understand more about Vietnam as the supply chains move around, in particular, even during COVID. So it's quite interesting to get your perspective. We are running out of time, but if I may, Your Excellency, Minister Zung, a question for you, and then if Your Excellencies, Mr. Zung and the Governor would like to make any last closing remarks, why don't I turn it over to Minister Zung, and then if the Governor would like to make any last closing remarks, we'll open it up for him. Mr. Zung, the impressive results of the FDI attraction in recent years has shown that the initial investment conditions are favorable and the investment environment is generally open and clear. However, the barriers to investment in services such as telecom, logistics, education, healthcare, and financial services still can seem quite complicated to foreign investors. How will Vietnam look to open key service sectors as the foundation to improve the economy's competitiveness and increase productivity? Your Excellency, Mr. Zung.
Well, thank you. And before answering these questions, I'd like to quickly comment on the 2 points made by Mr. Sorenbach and Mr. CK Tung. First, we agree with your assessment and your views on the successful attempts to respond to COVID-19 taken by the government of Vietnam in the last few months. And we have really been applauded by the business community and international community for our responses in containing COVID-19 with high quality and low costs. And I think that this is good, and it has helped us to overcome the challenges, recover our growth and development, to get prepared for the coming time. And we have introduced quite a number of measures from the monetary and financial policies to support the affected companies by COVID-19 and supporting the employees in order to ensure social safety and security, reducing or minimizing the impact on production and manufacturing and getting ourselves prepared to recover right after the pandemic is over. Second, when it comes to the shift of investments under the China Plus One strategy, I totally agree with the assessment by Mr. C.K. Tong. And we understand that Vietnam possesses a lot of advantages which are deemed as necessary to attract investors, such as the size of the economy, size of the market, and our workforce. And the labor cost in Vietnam are now lower than ones in China. And so we are very competitive in relation with China, and we have a lot of room and space, while China has reached their ceilings in certain aspects. So for the multinational corporations in their production and technology cycles, we understand that it's time for them to look for new markets or new places for manufacturing. So we are fairly confident in saying that Vietnam has become a more attractive destination for foreign investors. But we also understand that we cannot wait there and waiting while India, Malaysia, the Philippines, Thailand are also making efforts in attracting the investors. That's why we are working harder on improving our infrastructure, human resources, and land availability, connectivity. So we are getting prepared and awaiting the foreign investors to come very soon. And we hope that Standard Chartered stay accompanying us in this journey, helping us in overcoming our challenges and receiving the opportunities offered by the investors in the coming period. In response to the questions about opening of our market to services, I'd like to make several points. First, we continue to implement our obligations under the WTO and other international treaties, and several new generation foreign free trade agreements have already included higher requirements than WTO. And so Vietnam have made even stronger commitments to open our service sector, much more than those found in the WTO's commitments. So that's for sure. And the Investment Law 2020 has just been approved by the National Assembly, and it adds the areas for market entry for the foreign investors on the conditional businesses with the new approach of negative list. So it only specifies the areas where the market entries is not yet allowed, but otherwise the foreign investors are eligible to enter the market on an equal footing to the domestic investors. So we find this a really highly streamlined and open regulation to welcome foreign investors to Vietnam, and we are developing a decree to guide the implementation of the Investment Law 2020, and it will come into effect soon. So you will find there very clear regulations on which services the foreign investors can enter quite freely. And communication, education, healthcare, etc. are those areas of conditional market entry. And Vietnam clearly and explicitly states and these conditions. And we are also committed to open the market as scheduled. For logistics and telecommunication, actually the market has been fairly opened under the 10th package under the framework agreement of ASEAN. So thank you very much for listening to my response.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Much appreciate the response. We clearly see a lot of interest in these sectors, and your response will help foreign investors think through the perspective of further investment in these sectors. Before I close the session, Your Excellency Governor, any last comments, or Your Excellency Minister, we'd be happy to take Any last comments before I close the session? So perhaps I should then just say a big thank you to the panelists, Your Excellency, the Governor, Your Excellency, the Minister of Planning and Investment. Thank you again for gracing us with your presence. We really appreciate your taking the time. Mr. C.K. Tong, Mr. Soren Beck, again, thank you for joining us for this. And I'd like to thank my co-moderator, Mr. Nguyen Xuan Thang, for helping us moderate this session. And clearly from Standard Chartered's perspective, we are delighted to be in Vietnam. We are here as a big believer in Vietnam, and we see Vietnam as a big long-term opportunity for investors. So on that, we look forward to continuing to support the government and the people of Vietnam. With that, I hand it over to Melanie. And thank you again to all our panelists and especially our distinguished panelists. Melanie.
Thank you, Nirud. And thank you everyone for attending today's webcast today. It seems like we're running a little short of time on our webcast today. But thank you so much for all your questions. We take note of that. Please reach out to our Standard Chartered's relationship manager, and they would be delighted to have a conversation together with you. Before we conclude today, let us know what you think of today's webcast by scanning this QR code that you see on your screen right now, or click on the survey link after the webcast has ended. So Standard Chartered has just launched our new brand story, a trade-focused film directed by Mark Waring, the stop animation expert at the heart of Wes Anderson's Oscar-nominated films, Isles of Dogs and Fantastic Mr. Fox. This short film tells the story of two villages that have their perfectly good produce and how they created something even better when they exchange what they have. This reinforces Standard Chartered's unwavering commitment to driving global trade, especially in today's climate, as we continue to keep trade flowing and being here for good. Once again, thank you, keep safe, and have a great day.
The world feels smaller when we're separated. And that's not good enough. We believe the world is a better place when we exchange what we have. That's why we've been driving global trade for over 160 years. And we continue to do so, even in these uncertain times. Because we're not here for good enough. We're Standard Chartered, and we're here for good.